So people are going to be very, very surprised when this pops up in their feed. And I think we need what's the most surprising way we can pop out of the intro here? What's the most surprising thing? People turn on their podcast feed and there we are. And all of a sudden we're talking what's the most shocking way to do this?
JFK is back, baby.
Oh, so we're doing a JFK jokes.
Yeah.
He's alive again? Is that the implication?
Yeah, he was never gone.
I'd be pretty surprised if I heard that.
I feel like that might overshadow that the Besties are back. If people say America's favorite president JFK has returned to us, and also the podcast that it was never really consistent, both in terms of release and in terms of quality, but now they're doing it every month, is also back, and until, of course, they'll probably miss one of those months also, again, because of the consistency thing. I think
disappear for 2 years.
Yeah, and I think people might be more psyched about John.
About Jackie Boy.
About Jackie.
Yeah. What about James Buchanan is back, baby?
Yeah.
I don't see why it has to be a revived president.
Structurally, yeah, it wasn't the ingredients of your gag so much as the recipe that we were
my idea is we stealth release it as an episode of another podcast. So it could be Limetown. And you turn on Limetown, and they're talking about their thing. There's a big, scary conspiracy happening. It's welcome to Limetown. And then we kind of burst through it. And I'm not sure how we do that in audio form, but we just kind of burst through the podcast, and we're all just fucking greased up. And we just sort of slide through the podcast and through your headphones.
Can you be a reporter?
I think I know how we do it.
Yeah.
So they're like, it turns out the murderer was Conan O'Brien is back, baby, on NBC, The Late Show.
No, where the surprise, Chris? Holy shit.
You gotta go smaller and then bigger. That's the issue. This was a mistake. My name is Justin McElroy, and I know the best games of the month.
My name is Griffin McElroy, and I'm the one who knows the best games of the month.
My name is Chris Plante, and I know the best games of the month.
Why you punish me? It's me, Hootie.
Justin's left. Say your fucking name, Russ Frushtick.
Russ Frushtick is here.
All right.
Welcome to the Besties, where we talk about the best games, the best movies, the best TV shows, fashion, fast food,
game board pieces.
What? Sorry?
Game board pieces?
Game board pieces.
Like the thimble from Monopoly?
Warhammer Custos, whatever you want, we got it. But this week we're focusing on video games. You know, guys, they're not just Pac-Man anymore. They've come a long way, and we're here to explore that on the Besties.
Justin,
first thing
I don't want to turn this off on a tangent, but a man just went by on a bicycle right outside Griffin and I's house, with a lance, like a 6 foot long pole, like he was gonna start hunting the postman.
Hold on, I gotta see if I can fucking see this fool.
He's gone.
Wait.
He just zipped by, but
was
it looked
he in
like
medieval garb? Like he was
no,
LARPing?
he was dressed like a normal fellow on a bike who was going to start assaulting.
Just open up my
postmen.
blind, so I'll catch him on lap 2. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. PSA. Okay, now we can keep going.
Good heads up. So just to clarify, we're doing this every other day. Besties?
It's gonna feel like it.
Yeah,
but no, we're doing.
So you're gonna get 150 some odd episodes in a year.
No.
Boy, that sounds like a prison of hell. No, it's every month, and we're gonna talk about the best games of the month.
Ooh,
and what we thought of them, because people. Why are we doing this?
Guys, we got off on a tangent. Can we please try to start properly with the intro that I have wanted to do?
Yeah,
I'm ready to hear it.
Guys, the second trailer and the last for Beauty and the Beast just came out, and that movie is going to make so much money. I try to tell anybody that'll listen, that movie is going to make so much fucking money. There's it's not just people, there's a generation of people who grew up with it, and also now they're parents, and they have kids who also love it. That movie is gonna make so much fucking money. How much money you guys think that movie's gonna fucking make?
I don't know. Here's my concern with that movie.
No.
Here's the issue is that you have this like real CG look to it, right? Like it's much more realistic, and then you have real actors. But then I look at like the creepy like lamp, and like Chip is like a little child with like a chunk missing from its head. Like it gets very
grisly. It gets grisly, yeah. I mean, everybody. Is it possible to invest in a movie? Because I agree with Justin. I would love to put some money into this and then boost my investment, because this thing's gonna make a cool mill.
Easy.
It's
easily gonna clear $1 million at the BO.
Get on the Hollywood Stock Exchange.
It's gonna be Bafo BO.
Head to hsx.com and just buy up Beauty and the Beast, because this is gonna be a sleeper hit for the ages. No, I do we do honorable mentions first, like things that didn't make our list for the month, and then but like we want to talk about, or is that just on our annual shows?
No, I think we can do that.
You can do that.
Yeah,
it is weird though. Before you get into that, real quick, it's weird. Not to segue again, but January is by and large a shitty month for video games. Really shitty. And for whatever reason, this January is pretty damn good. I think once you hear everyone's picks, you'll be surprised that it was a pretty damn good month for games.
Yeah, I was really kind of. It kind of is almost a little disappointing, because like after the rush of the holidays, I usually think of this time of the year as like, oh, I'll just relax and try to read some books and stuff like that. But like that has not come to fruition. No books for me. There's been too many video games to play. The one that I've actually oddly spent the most time with. Did we talk about Dragon Quest Builders on our last episode?
I don't think we
did.
Because Russ and I have both been playing it. It is a very good video game. I'm not deeply embedded in the Dragon Quest thing, but
I got 7 and 8 sent to me for the 3DS games, and I was like, oh, dope, big beefy RPGs to dip into the 3DS. I just fucking can't. I just can't. They're
like a slime.
So boring. I'm sorry. I know there's so many people that love those games, but holy shit, they don't age well. They're the most boring RPGs ever.
And those are new games. Those are not like aged games. 7 and 8 are new.
How new are they?
Well, I think they were PS2. They were PS2 games.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
so when was the last like true new Dragon Quest game?
9, I guess, the DS game. I actually like that one. Okay, because you could you created your own characters, and there was a bunch of customization stuff you could do.
Yeah, but by and large, the world and the story and the writing,
absolutely.
There's a fucking slime. No one cares.
Justin, tell me on Builders.
Builder, the newest one was 10, by the way. It was in 2012.
Oh,
There's
was
another
it?
one coming this year, I guess.
Oh,
nerds.
But Builders is so it's sort of based on the world building Minecraft sort of formula, where you're going around an open world and collecting wood, dirt, just wood and dirt.
I mean, it's not even based on. I would say it's 80% that, right?
No, I mean that is the part of the formula for sure. Layered over with some very light JRPG sort of. I would say the main thing is the storytelling, but there's also some combat mechanics that feel sort of JRPG like. They're active, but
what's weird about the storytelling is that I didn't really grasp what was going on, because the text was flying by so quickly, on the screen, I couldn't understand really or read any of it, because for whatever reason my thumb just kept hitting X, and I just
so you just didn't
needed to get past it as quickly as possible.
Fun.
Because it's fucking miserable.
It's okay. It's not. I mean, it's not exactly my cup of tea. But the cool thing that they do. Let me. Here's the hook for me. Mm-hmm. In Dragon Quest Builders, there are 4. I guess 4. I haven't finished yet. Because it's a beefy game. They're each discrete chapters, and each one's a discrete world. And in it, you're building a base. Is the center of operations. And the base, there are obviously places to build items, your workbenches and upgraded workbenches, and places to cook and stuff like that. But beyond recipes for items, the thing that I think is really smart about Dragon Quest Builders is it gives you recipes for rooms. So in your base, you there's a recipe for a private bedroom, for example, and a private bedroom has to have a bed and a chest and a pot and a lighting source and a sign that says that it's your bedroom, and it has to have at least like the walls have to be complete, and there has to be a door. But it is much more guided, I think, than your traditional like your Minecrafts or what have you. And for me, who always felt sort of overwhelmed by the Minecraft thing, it's really cool and satisfying, I think, to like know how to build a room and like have a little bit more signposting there.
Also, like that structure of game needs it needs like a checklist. It needs completion stuff like that. It needs to give you like like objectives and benchmarks for knowing like how you're progressing through the game. There's a lot of really smart stuff there. This episode is not going to be as long as our like 4-hour year-end specials, right?
We should move on.
We should move on, but that I completely agree. I like it. I'm playing it on Vita. I know you played it on PS4, but I really do enjoy that game as well. Apart from
it's a
story,
good exercise bike game where like you're not really that focused on it, but something to occupy you.
Yeah.
Okay, Spitfire round. What else do people want to put in here for honorable mentions?
What was I gonna do, and then I changed my mind? Oh no, that's your game plan. Never mind.
Yeah. Griffin, you got anything?
Not really. I
Justin
mean,
had that solitaire game.
I just had
Solitarica, guys, on iOS. Solitarica. It is a roguelike game where it's just like boss battles, a series of boss battles in a roguelike game, except the mechanics are based on solitaire. So by making matches, you get like energy to cast spells and fight the enemy, and you're trying to clear the solitaire board. It's got great mechanics, and it's really, really fun.
I don't know if you guys remember, the very first game I brought to the Besties in episode 1 was Fairway Solitaire, which actually sounds very similar. So I'm all about it.
Yeah, I haven't played too much other than my game, which I played the shit out of. Because I have a baby, and since I started during my paternity leave month, holy shit, I played some games. Played Final Fantasy 15, which we didn't talk about because we recorded Besties year-end special before it came out.
That's not a great game.
I thought it was pretty good.
Sleepy.
It's very good.
I played a lot of Stardew Valley too, but yeah, in January things have been pretty tame for me. I'll tell you what I'm really looking forward to, and this is kind of sad, but also very utilitarian. The thing I'm most looking forward to right now is the Fire Emblem Heroes game. We put up a preview, and it looks fucking great. Like, it actually looks like Fire Emblem. There's a lot more depth than the reveal trailer showed, but not only that, you can play it with one hand, which is awesome, because I spend like 4 hours a day holding a baby in one arm, and with that other arm, I've mostly been playing chess on my phone. I've been trying to get into chess. Ooh. So a free chess app is what I've been playing most this month.
Yeah. Do you have to like buy bishops and stuff?
Yeah, you have to buy bishops. I actually played a little bit of. I got into it because I played a lot of really bad chess. The excellent
great
mobile game. And I wanted to play just sort of the normal stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna recommend one thing before we get into it.
Hit it.
Hatsune Miku, Project Diva, Flavor Tone.
Is that really what
I don't remember the end of the name.
Okay.
But it's the latest one. Yeah. Have you played any of these games?
No.
Just Project Diva X?
No, it's like Flavor Town. 1 second.
Future Tone.
Future Tone. Thank you.
Flavor Town.
It's like a greatest hits of all the Hatsune Miku games, which are rhythm games with
the girl.
Teenage girl singer that you like make music for. And listen, it's a little awkward. And I was defending it. Steffi was, I won't say dogging on it, but I'll say dogging on it. Like, she really thought it was kind of creepy that I was playing this colorful child's game with the dancing.
Didn't she see your video all about Hatsune Miku?
Well, she knows that I'm a fan, and when we were in Japan, she was like, oh, I get it. This is very neat. But then in the game, so I was like, oh, what do I do with all these points that I've earned? So I opened the menu to like buy things for my Miku. And it turns out most of the things that you buy for your Miku are like dirty bikinis. Yeah, and then there are other characters who look like younger than Miku, and you buy the same thing for them.
That's ideal.
Yeah, it's not great at all. And it's so weird because it does feels like a family-friendly game.
No.
And then it's like, here's the school team One Piece. Don't you want to buy that for Miku? And it's like, no. I just want to sing songs with Miku.
I just want to remedy. It's not that bad. Like Final Fantasy 15 is half of a great game, and then the wheels fall off so spectacularly in Final Fantasy. I literally did you guys play
interesting. It? Yeah, I finished it, and I disagree with you. Literally polar opposite, because I thought
that's not fucking nonsense, Griffin. The first half of the game is this cool melding of like
we back
road trip, like 50s sort of diner aesthetics with like JRPG mechanics and also some like Oblivion, Skyrim sort of mechanics like weaved in there with some actually like really decent storytelling and fun ways of like building character and stuff like that. And then it's this great open world thing. And then there's a switch flip to a certain point, and suddenly it's on the rails and very badly paced, and nothing makes sense, and none of it's fun. And it's so baffling to me. It looks like somebody got, I think I said this on Twitter, it got like 60% of the way through a standardized test and then realized they had 10 minutes left and then just started writing like ABBA, 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 cab, 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 ABBA, just like to finish it.
That works.
I thought the open world stuff was cool. The world was great. The aesthetic was great. Everything. I mean, it's a fucking Final Fantasy game. The presentation is unparalleled. Nobody's making stuff like this still, and lots of people are trying, and they're fucking failing spectacularly, while Final Fantasy continues to get like better and better and better in that department.
Fell asleep.
The storytelling is fucking doo-doo garbage from a trash can, because they do half of it in movies and anime before you even play the game, and it's like,
that's terrible too.
Here comes Regulus, Regulus, you love him. Who the fuck? Who is this? So like that stinks, and also the quest design. Like I swear to God, if I have to like go into the forest and look for these like 2x2 pixel like brown spots in this slightly less brown ground.
I don't know how you guys have the patience to get through it.
But I felt like once it hit the linear part, it just focused on like the cool presentation and the fighting, and at that point like the characters were established and they told a story like that you could follow, because like you didn't need this insane primer to follow it. Like I enjoyed the back half of that game more than the first half.
Can we alley-oop to my game off this? Because it builds off this pretty nicely. So my game for this month is Gravity Rush 2, which I think is one of the best games I've played in a very long time. But first, I'm going to talk about all of its problems, because I know that people are going to get really hung up on them. Yes. The big one, number one, I loved the first one and its goofy, like, nonsensical story. The game starts in the worst way imaginable. So if you didn't play Gravity Rush 1, the whole hook is you're in an open world, and you are this young woman named Kat, and you have the power to shift the direction of gravity around you so you can fall upwards and whatnot. So she saved the city. That was kind of the whole story of the first one. And the second one starts, and they're like, cool, you, for no clear reason, are on a mining ship in a different dimension, and you also don't have that power really right now, and you're going to break stones to mine them for about
and you're also walking at like 3 miles per hour.
At a glacial pace. Oh, and it starts in first person for no explainable reason.
It's like a weirdly Western introduction to that game.
It's
because
trying
I played
to be.
it too. It's trying to where it kind of reminded me of like the beginning of like a Gears of War game, where it's a lot of like throat clearing and slow walking and people talking, and you want to jump off a building.
Yeah, it's
and
terrible.
Just like it gets a lot better after that.
You fly because you change the direction of gravity.
It's not even that. It's like, why are we mining? We need more food for our poor orphans.
Anyway,
it's really bad.
It's really bad, and it turns out that there is a like direct-to-video anime that you have to watch. That
Stop it!
The truth is, you don't have to
terrible.
watch it. If you can just ignore the first hour, it catches you up after that. But the first hour is bad, and like I hate being the person who is like, trust me, this video game made by a Japanese developer gets really great if you just skip this huge chunk.
I mean, it is only an hour versus like 9
versus like
hours
10
of like
hours,
Final Fantasy games.
Yeah,
that
so
you have to get through.
Anyway, there's that, and then there's the other big issue, which is the missions themselves are pretty straightforward, like go from A to B, or like kill this many things. But I've had this epiphany this month, and it's from like playing all these really good Japanese games, and it's that Western games hide the artificiality of video games. Like, they spend a ton of money and time to make it so you don't think too much about, like, how really you're just, like, fulfilling these very, very rote quests. And it looks nice, and you're, like, caught up in the action, so you just miss it. Well, Japanese games are like, whatever. We're not going to conceal it at all. There's gobs of menus. There's all these things. But we're going to put all those resources into just absolutely bizarre and wonderful art and, like, experimental gameplay ideas that might work and they might not, but we're still going to, like, put resources into it.
Yeah, I buy that.
And that's why I can look past this game, because it's definitely not as polished as a Western game, but, like, the story is so wild and, like, so much more interesting than anything I've played from the West in a long time. And just the idea of, like, an open world game that is about using the actual architecture as your playground and as, like, your way of attacking characters versus all these giant open world games that spend so much money on the open world and you can't interact with the world in any imaginable way except for to shoot it. That's, like, super exciting. So
Yeah.
I get why it's flawed, but I feel like I've been, like, complaining about getting these certain type of games forever and ever and ever, and then somebody actually went and made that game that I wanted, and it's broken, but, like, it exists.
I also really like her as a character. She kind of feels like she would be a side character in another game, because she's, like, very goofy and lighthearted and, like, acts as comic relief for almost everyone else in the game. And ordinarily that's, like, your funny friend that you have, but obviously here she's the protagonist, and it just ties everything together, like, very nicely in this, like, kind of warm, enjoyable light. I don't disagree with any of the, like, complaints that you brought up, because I do, like, a lot of the missions are rote and, like, kind of dull. But the other thing I wanted to call attention to was, you mentioned the experimental gameplay stuff. The most fun that I've had in that game is this weird photography mode. Now, it's a Japanese game, and when Japanese games sometimes have photography modes, they sometimes get super icky. This is not the case in this game. In this game,
It flirts with it.
I don't even...
The first mission is an elderly man who asks you to take pictures of strange women on the street because it will prevent him from dying of loneliness.
I guess I wasn't reading too carefully.
But after that, it gets better.
Yeah, after the actual gameplay mechanic is, like, you can plop down a camera on a tripod and use that to basically, like, identify certain spots in the map that have hidden treasure in them, and you can then upload that photo that you take as a hint for other players on your friends list to see, like, oh, there's a treasure there, let me use this photo to figure out where that is. And that I find, like, super entertaining and engaging. Like, I've done a bunch of those, and those are super fun and, like, innovative to the point of, like, you know, you wouldn't see that in a Western game. Like,
well, you couldn't see it in a Ubisoft game because half of the buildings look identical.
Yeah.
Is the combat any better?
Yeah, so yes and no. So
that was the big issue for me with the first one, and I like the first one a lot. I'm going to play this as soon as I'm done with my current game, but I think the big stumbling block was it got very hard to follow the action.
Yeah, the aerial combat is a little bit better, but the force powers, like you being on the ground and just picking up like a dozen boxes or human bodies and throwing them at your enemies, is wonderful and hysterical.
Yeah,
I mean, it's essentially you spamming the throw button, but it is a very rewarding experience.
Yeah, in the first game you could basically, like, gravity kick your way to success, and in this game I think that's true, but for the force throw, they, like, nerfed the gravity kick and made force throw the, like, dominant power in the game.
It also is just, like, very old-fashioned, like almost NES-ish, in that you continue getting powers that aren't really useful except for to beat, like, the boss in front of you up until the end of the game. But again, like, that's more, they wanted to find a way to make it not be a cutscene. So it's like, sure, like, we would like you to turn into this giant creature. So you have that power now. And 10 seconds have passed, so I guess you could use it to beat this boss.
Yeah, it just bums me out that it's not on Vita. Because I think the like, very light, kind of repetitive gameplay fits so well for Vita. I mean, granted, they probably couldn't pull off all the visuals on Vita, but, like, it fits so well for that platform, and I loved playing on Vita. And
Russ, if you're disappointed by games not being on Vita, you're in for a tough
no, my
tough
man,
year.
Switch is gonna
Switch,
take over.
bro. Switch. Vita 2.0 is the most
yeah, buddy.
accurate way to describe the
That's
Switch
all I care
ever.
about.
All right,
Yeah,
we're gonna talk
can I-
about that at halftime. Let's talk about Switch
Yeah,
at
for
halftime.
Can I spoil one thing from Gravity Rush? Are people okay with Gravity Rush spoilers?
I think so.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I guess fast forward a couple minutes if you don't want to hear
okay.
it.
This will be really quick, but this is just one of the things that I just absolutely loved about this game. So the first third of it or whatever takes place on these like floating islands of an open world, and you're like running around, yada yada yada, and you're hearing all these rumors about like the poor factory workers of the area, but you never really see them. And there comes a mission where you get your beacon to go to wherever you need to go next, and it says like 800 meters beneath where you are.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you stand on the edge of the city and just fall off and free fall for a minute and a half, falling through the clouds. And then as the clouds break, you realize there's an entire another open world underneath where you've been.
And I
And
guess
they-
you could have gone there before, but
Yeah.
it just never occurs to you that there would be anything down there because it's like a ton of cloud and like emptiness.
And they do a few other moments similar to that, but the game
Yeah.
ends up being drastically bigger than
Yeah.
it is when the game starts.
Mhm.
That's all.
I could jump to my game next because it's also
let's do
like
it.
Yeah.
another like Japanese development studio just kind of like crushing it. What?
No, it's just funny. They are both from Japan, but they could not be more different.
Yeah, but I
Well-
mean, it's shocking because there weren't a ton of great games from Japanese developers for a long time. I mean, at this scale.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to.
Everybody thought Final Fantasy 15 was gonna be one, and then it wasn't.
was,
so that
yeah.
was another thing that everybody.
I don't want to generalize and say like Japanese games got bad for a long time or whatever. But I can't think like they're so tightly. They it's been 2 months of like really fucking solid stuff, and
Yeah.
that culminated, I think, in my game of the month. And to be honest, like definitely a top 5 GOTY contender for me, which was Resident Evil.
It's
Resident Evil 7.
January.
Yeah,
Resident-
I know. Resident Evil 7 is the best Resident Evil game since 4. I don't think it quite gets over 4, because I think 4, particularly the Wii version, Come At Me, is a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah, Wii version's very good.
7 is Capcom's like confession that they fucked this franchise up so bad.
Yeah, I mean, we should just before you go into it, we should address like your statement that it's the best one since 4 is
No,
not.
no.
a
It's
high
the it's the
bar.
best one other than 4. It's better than 1, 2, 3, all.
Oh.
Code
Yeah,
Veronica?
Yeah, dude. It's extremely good.
Okay.
5 I played all of for some reason, even though it
Ugh.
was bad. 6 I saw
Deep in
trailers
trash
for that
fire.
and I was like, haha, nice
So
try.
bad.
No thanks. And in 7 they have abandoned this like we're a paramilitary counterterrorism unit where there's zombie attacks happening all over the globe, and we got like government conspiracy cyber wesker, like fuck off with that. Boss fights in a volcano, like y'all lost your minds at some point, and that point was at the end of 4.
Even though 4 was outlandish as well. Like,
4 was
that's
outlandish,
not-
right? 4 gets more and more and more outlandish as it goes, but it's a fun sort of like
Yeah, sure.
outlandish. It starts off like very scary traditional Resident Evil, and then by the end of
grounded,
it,
yeah.
you are like doing a jet ski rocket fight or something crazy. Like
Yes,
it's fun. But it's fun. But then 5 and 6 are all jet ski rocket fights, and they
Yeah.
suffer for it. So for 7, I told I was talking to Nick about this in Cool Games Inc. and I said that I couldn't believe that Resident Evil 7 was a Resident Evil game, that they like called it Resident Evil, because it was such not only a departure from the bad games that recently came out, but the whole franchise. Like I couldn't believe that this was called Resident Evil 7 until I got to the first door that you have to unlock with statues of dog heads. And it was like, oh yeah, here it is. So
Couldn't
Resident
get
Evil
rid
7.
of that.
So what's it like?
Things that are unique about Resident Evil 7. Who's played it, by the way?
I played the demo, so I know the gameplay, but it's too
Okay.
scary for me.
I played a bit.
It is it's a Resident Evil game, but it is first person. It takes place mostly in this sort of decrepit manor and sort of attached outer buildings in a Louisiana like swampland area.
And that's the level that's in the demo, correct?
That is, I think there's several houses like in the game that are part of this like little compound, and I think
Property,
the demo, yes, definitely takes place in that area is in the game for sure. And the demo is a really fucking great sales pitch for this game. If you are on the fence, play the demo because it's stellar. What they've done here is they have stripped away literally all of this big blockbuster action bullshit that has seriously ruined the franchise. 5 and 6 were bad games.
Yeah.
So to the point where you play a character named Ethan, who's just like a dude. He is not this huge burly super marine. Enhanced with, what is it? Raccoon cells, giving him special regenerative. Like, no, you're just this dude, and you get a message from your wife Mia that she is in this manor after she's been missing for several years, and that way, I guess it's kind of a throwback to Resident Evil 1, which mainly takes place in a big house. And so you go to this place, you don't have any weapons when you walk in the door, and you go a pretty long time without weapons. There are a few like kind of tense chapters where things are exceedingly dangerous and you have no way to deal with it except to just kind of run away. There's a lot of really great scenes where like somebody's chasing you with like a one-hit kill weapon, and the only thing you can do is try to keep them on the opposite end of a dining room table that you try to like circle around to try to get to the door.
It's
to
like
run
a
away
Benny
from.
Hill sketch.
Yeah, but a fucking terrifying one. It is, the presentation of the game is really stellar. I have I picked up a PS4 Pro last year, and it's one of the first games I've played on it, which is more of a damnation of my purchase of the PS4 Pro that like really takes advantage of the HDR shit. Because it is like the jump scares like all pay off, man.
Well, and the HDR, correct me if I'm wrong, that comes out into the contrast. So because you have a very dark game and then like maybe a flashlight or something.
It's the perfect game for that, right? So things will be very, very dark, and then all of a sudden there's a very bright, scary face right in front of you, like it plans out. So it never get like it has a really nice power curve, and a lot of that is supported by one of the better like resource management balances that they've had in one of these games. Like you really have to be very diligent with each bullet and with each like item combination, and you really need to like find as much as you can.
Are herbs in the game?
There are herbs, yeah.
Like can you mix like red and yellow?
Well, there's herbs, and then there are these things called Chem packs, CHEM. And those come in a few different colors, and you have to mix those with different items to get.
I wish they'd been KIM packs.
Yeah, I'm Kim. These are my excellent.
These are my packs. I think what's interesting, Griffin, about what you're saying is and it's something that like a lot of people lump Resident Evil in with survival horror because it kind of invented the genre. But if you really look at the games, like, it's not a scary series. I mean, it's really not. Right. There's a couple of
The first one is scary.
The first one I thought was
the
pretty
dogs
scary.
jumping through the window, right? Like, so there's that, and then
the
nothing. It's just not. It's never. It sounds like what you're talking about. It sounds like it's taking a page from Silent Hill, which to me has always been scarier because you're just a person in a world. Like for me, if I'm a member of like a paramilitary force and I'm armed to the teeth, I can only ever be so scared.
Right.
Like,
if you're playing a survival horror game and you can find a rocket launcher in it, it's just like by that point the game stops being scary. So to that point, you mentioned Silent Hill. I think the more apt comparison, definitely there's tones of PT here. Although like we don't know what Silent Hills was gonna be, so I would be less quick to like make that comparison than I would to like an Outlast or this sort of indie PC game horror movement. But where you are, in Outlast, you're completely powerless. All you can do games like that and Amnesia, like you're just running away, and that is the only thing you can do. I think it hits some of those notes really fucking well. Like there are times in this game where you feel completely powerless and terrified of this like really fucking terrifying thing that's chasing you. But it does have some really nice loops in terms of. There's lots of puzzles that you have to solve and lots of environmental puzzles, and there's a lot of going back through areas that you've already conquered because there's lots of shortcuts and gear gating and stuff like that. And then there's these like puzzles that kind of go throughout the length of the entire game, and if you chase those threads, you end up with like the double barrel shotgun. But you're never too powerful. Even though you get a flamethrower at a certain point in the game, it's kind of shitty. It's like not actually
grounded flamethrower.
It's not a very good weapon, and also you go through fuel for it like really, really fast. So you're never super powerful. The game is brilliant in how it rewards you with new stuff and how it still makes you feel like around any corner could be a thing that's going to murder you.
Yeah. So one of the issues that I think the franchise ran into is not, I can't even blame them for it because it's kind of a natural like evolution of how these things go, is like, okay, so Griffin, apart from like maybe changing the setting, like how do you make a sequel for this game that's not more action heavy, more, you know what I mean?
Well,
like
I don't know what point you're trying to make here, because
I'm trying to make the argument that like you can only play this card once in a while.
No, I disagree.
You don't think so?
I think with this game they have established a new way of doing these games. I finished the game in about 8 hours, and which is not like a super short experience by any stretch of the imagination, but I wanted fucking so much more of it when it was done, because I loved it, man. And yeah, I think a new setting would be good, but I don't necessarily agree that there has to be like a certain escalation. I've been going a long time, and I would like to talk about just one more thing about the game that I think is so indicative of how much they've course corrected and how like brilliant a game they've made. And that is the first boss fight of the game, because, hey, check this out. The boss fights are fucking good in this game, because they are all, like, for the most part, pretty scary hide and seeks.
Phil didn't like the boss fights.
Phil's out of his mind. The boss fights are good. There's a couple at the end that are very Resident Evil, like, shoot the big monster with the unlikely weapon stuff. Yeah. But there's some really, really good boss fights in the game, and the first one that you do is against this guy that kind of torments you throughout the first hour or so of the game, and you don't really have any recourse for it. And it takes place in this garage, and this is seriously in the first hour of the game, and if you want to fast forward, I totally get it. But it's in this garage, and you don't have a weapon when you walk in, but then somebody gets killed, and then you do get a gun from them with like 9 bullets in it, and then you're fighting this invincible dude. The game's main antagonist is this family of hillbillies, I guess, kind of.
Oh, offensive.
Well, I know, but they're also invincible, unkillable mutant hillbillies, not in
they have something going for them,
right? Not in like a Hills Have Eyes kind of way, but there's definitely like a Sam Raimi like schlocky humor to it that really fucking works. So anyway, you're fighting against this invincible mutant dad, and you're in this garage. And in this garage, what's so fucking cool about this fight is there's like a bunch of different ways that it can play out, because there's some items laying around the garage. For instance, you can run and pick up this gun that gets dropped, and you can just try and shoot your way through the fight, and you might be able to pull that off. You also have a knife that you can use, and that seems like a pretty long-winded way of doing the fight. The other thing you can do is you can find car keys that let you get in the car and drive it into him and crush him with the car that way.
Sure.
And this is what I did. And at a certain point, you think you've killed him, but then he stands up and tears the roof off the car and then drives around. He like takes hold of the wheel and presses the pedal down with both of you in the car and tries to kill you by crashing it into stuff in the garage.
Wait, you're in the passenger seat?
Yes. No, you're in the driver's seat. He's on top of the fucking car. Like, and it is so fucking kind of funny and scary and cool.
Yeah.
But he can also, if you're too slow, he can tear you out of the car, and all of a sudden he's in the car driving it around, and he can drive into you and hit you with the car and damn it, and you have to shoot him out of. And it's all really dynamic, and it's not like quick time event Resident Evil bullshit. It is all from this first person perspective, and you still have this same feeling of like, I'm gonna fucking die. But it's taking place in this like dynamic fight that you probably didn't experience the same way as somebody else. It is fucking genius, and
it's like kind of Quantum Breaky, or not Quantum Break, Quantic Dream-esque, those games.
No, because it's not scripted. You're not like pressing R2 to go. Like, you are still having to aim and shoot. It feels like any other part of the game. It is just unfolding around you in this really like unpredictable way. And like from that point, I was like, all right, Resident Evil, like I am buying whatever you're selling.
Yeah,
this fucking rules.
Too scary.
It's a pretty scary game.
can't
Also,
play those games.
It's
They're too scary.
It's astonishing. I don't have this, but it's astonishing to me that this is all playable in PlayStation VR. I will pick up a PSVR someday, and I will replay this game.
I've heard it is by far the pukiest of the VR games.
I don't doubt it, but
almost impossible to play.
I still want it.
We're going to take a quick break now to talk about I'm sure Russ has some dumb thing, but I'm not going to let him do it. Because I want to talk, and I haven't been able to talk to anybody about this, because I want to talk about the Nintendo Switch. Russ, you got hands-on.
Am I the only one here that played it?
The Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
It was it was at PAX South last weekend, and I wanted to go check it out, but I didn't have time.
I just got to hear from you, Russ. Is it going to be whack or dope?
Those are my two options.
One word. Whack or dope?
I'll go dope.
Okay.
Yeah?
It's dope.
Wait, are you talking about just the hardware or the odds of it actually
I'm talking about
surviving?
ARMS exclusively. The rest of the thing is whack, but it's ARMS is dope. No. So as Griffin and I alluded to earlier, I think we're both fans of the Vita as a platform.
Yeah, I'm a fan of remote play, which literally saved my life. Not literally. It saved my life in December when we had the baby, and there was a lot of just kind of like watching over him in the living room while he napped, and we watched TV, and I played Final Fantasy that way and Stardew Valley that way, and I actually played some Resident Evil 7 that way. The mapping is really smart. They switch. It's the only game on remote play I played. Russ, you're the only person that's going to find this interesting. They switched the crouch and sprint touch inputs because sprint is on the left stick, right? In every game, you click down on the left stick.
But you can't move and sprint.
But you can't move and sprint on the Vita, so they just switched the sticks. It's the most genius, lightweight fix for that. Anyway, sorry
That's
to
some
interrupt.
nerd-ass shit.
Yes, I play games,
but
like
I do
that
appreciate
exclusively.
it. So the Vita's awesome, and it's dead, as we've established. No games are really coming out for it these days, although you can still play on remote play, and I do that as well. And we've had the 3DS, which is obviously for when games come out, it's great, but obviously there's very few games on it, and it's a very underpowered system. The games run at fucking 320p or some shit. It is not a blockbuster of a system. And so I'm a big fan of playing games portably. TV's on in the background, I'm chilling on the couch, or I'm on the subway or something like that. And in that venue, the idea that Nintendo is making a new console which can be played portable, which it can. It's not enormously huge to the point where you can't play games portably. But also the fact that I think over time they're going to continue to abandon the 3DS. So essentially almost all of their development prowess, which is not going into mobile, but everything else, probably 90% of their development prowess, is going into one single console system, which has not
really
happened
promising. Yeah.
Ever. I mean, since the launch of the original Game Boy, they've been splitting their development resources across multiple platforms, and now we have this kind of unification.
But they've said the opposite, technically, right?
Yeah, right.
They've acted
have
like
not
they're
said
going to
that.
keep all sorts
It's
of
horseshit.
going.
They'll continue to support it, I think, for the next year. There's a new Fire Emblem game coming out this year. But I think by March of 2018, the 3DS will pretty much be dead.
The only reason they're saying that is so people in Japan and I guess in America continue to buy 3DSs.
They don't want to.
There will be 6 first-party 3DS games that come out this year, and they will all be my favorite games ever.
Totally. So the portability aspect is a huge thing. The fact that you have all this development support is a huge thing, and I think it's extremely innovative and not in the ways that I thought it was going to be. I think a lot of attention gets placed on, hey, it's a console that you plug into your TV and then you take it with you, and that's the hook. But the multiplayer element of the fact that wherever you go with it, you have 2 controllers with you, I think is going to be a huge, huge game changer, to the point where events like PAX East or South or whatever will be absolutely teeming with these, where you have crowds of people grouped together playing multiplayer games. And that's something that has never made it to the US, where it's always been very popular in Japan. And I think by the fact that you've got multiple controllers, you've got these systems, it's got a freaking kickstand, you're just going to see a lot more people doing this. Now, granted, their big launch premiere game at that event was 1-2 Switch, which was pretty close to steaming garbage. I don't know what they're thinking, because I played it and it was pretty awful.
You know what that shit looks like? You know what that shit reminds me of? fucking Welcome Park on the PlayStation Vita.
Yeah.
Like how
for $50.
it's wild to me that is not a Nintendo Land ass included game. Like I can't. I imagine you could have like a fun night or two with it, but
I don't even know that.
I don't want to pay $50 to milk some invisible cows. I can do that right. Hey, look, I'm doing it. Hey guys, guess what I'm doing right now? Milk an invisible cow, and I'm really good at it. I'm producing lots of invisible milk.
You know what they should have done?
I want to hear from Christopher Plante about this, because I can see how definitely if you have a commute of any length, the appeal is pretty apparent. For me, I don't drive a lot. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I'm never on public transportation, I should say. So like the opportunities where I'm going to be out and about and able to play the Switch portably are going to be few and far between. So I'm a little bit concerned that it'll basically not, like, a lot of the appeal will be lost. Chris, are you in that same mindset, or do you see a future for it in your life?
I mean, I kind of second everything here of if indie game developers care, and if they make the Switch from Vita to this hardware, yeah, I'll care. I don't think, like, obviously that wasn't enough to save the Vita, so I don't see that being like some big thing for other people. But I
think that's a pretty whack comparison. Like I think it's going to have a completely different dev environment.
I don't think it should be too bad, because the Wii U had like some of the best Nintendo games, and that wasn't even close to enough to get people interested.
Yeah,
so,
but
like,
consider like the Vita died for a lot of reasons, but a big one was that Sony was dividing their time and energy between the PS4 and the Vita, and eventually they just gave up. And indies filled in a lot of the blanks, but for the most part they just gave up, and third party gave up, etc. And here, obviously, Nintendo's not going to give up because it's their primary console now.
Yeah, I mean, they won't give up unless nobody buys it, which is a very real possibility if there are no games from Nintendo.
Sure, but I think you have certainly 2 to 3 years of Nintendo games pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah, but like I said, that's not enough. Like that just doesn't work at all for Nintendo. When it doesn't have third-party developers, and it doesn't have like a mainstream gimmick, like something that's going to make people who watch the Today Show be like, well, I've never bought a video game console, but I'll try this.
Yeah.
Then
it
doesn't have.
It's not going to be the Wii.
It's not going to be the
Wii. That's what I'm saying. Is that's
the Wii was an aberration.
That's a for real problem for them, because the problem, like the thing that they have to decide right now is, okay, we're the second console. If they truly don't get third party support, and they only have like a new game every 5 or 6 months, let's say 3, and be like super generous, then that is a second console for people, which is big money. And unlike even the Wii U, which only had to be competing as a second console against, like, hey, you already own an Xbox, maybe instead of a PlayStation 4 you'll get a Wii U. Now they have to compete with the fact that Microsoft and Sony are going to be releasing new hardware, every other year, maybe every year. So, like, the competition for, like, being a new console for people to buy, for us, it's no big deal. We're grown-ups, and we work in this industry. But that's a huge, huge cost to ask people to make. And it's not like the Nintendo DS, which Nintendo's mobile hardware numbers are always like, holy cow, those are huge. Yeah. But we forget, it also drops to $100 after a couple of years.
This will eventually drop to $199 in a couple of years, 3
but
years
$199 is still more than the entry price of a normal mobile piece. I'm just saying there are some serious roadblocks ahead for this console.
I mean, I'm not talking about the financial viability of whether this is the future of Nintendo or not.
In terms of me liking it, I think it's good. I just think there has to be games, right? But I think Russ also addressed that, in that if they really do consolidate, and also if they learned any one lesson from the Wii U, it's that they have to develop at least twice as many games for this thing as they did. And now that they while we were recording this, they announced that Pokemon Sun and Moon sold 15 million copies, and that Super Mario Run made $56 million. I think they have some stability through these other channels, and I'm hoping against hope that they fucking invest in the Switch, because I think a lot of the comparisons you're making is to
the success that they had with the Wii, and I don't think they'll ever.
No,
I don't
not
think
at all.
I don't think they'll ever be in the first console race again. They were with the Wii just because it was such an aberration. I don't think that's a race that they're like trying to even get in.
This is a totally new thing.
I just hope, like, I would be fucking happy, like, if we're viewing this through a lens of, like, the Wii U was a failure, and it was a failure. If they'd released twice as many games for the Wii U, I don't think it would have been a failure. Conceptually, like, I would think back on that system with higher regard, because they had some fucking great games, and ultimately I think it was a really good idea for a system. They just didn't invest in it enough.
Here's the thing that I will say about whether or not all this will work, and this is like getting like really weedsy, but I feel like one of the biggest problems for the Wii U was they wanted to beat people to market, they rushed to get it out, and they didn't have games up top, and a lot of great games. Oh, I think like a ton of great games came out for the Wii U, but by the time they did, it was too late, and nobody wanted to like buy a Wii U.
I wouldn't say a ton.
I would say a lot.
Ratio-wise, it's the most lacking.
More good exclusives came to the Wii U than any other console. It just didn't have third-party games. That's pretty fair. Like, name
I don't know if that...
more than 5 great exclusives on any console.
Okay.
Okay, but anyway, I'll like totally wrap it. I know it's weedsy. But my thing with the Switch and what it feels like looking at the announcements is they're making the exact same mistake again, and they needed to get this hardware out there really fast, and we're not going to see like games actually develop for this thing for a long-ass time. So what we're going to have in the interim is like tech demo thing with ARMS, a game that was supposed to come out on the Wii U with Zelda, and then like maybe by the end of the year,
you can't leverage
Mario?
Zelda as a negative against this thing. That game
it's super good, but it's still them doing the same thing of like, it's a lot of stopgapping, and I think the long-term health of it, I think, is going to be decided on whether or not they can get those games out fast enough.
Yeah, I mean, we won't know. Again, I think as with any console, it takes a year. Like the first year is lacking.
True. Very true.
And that was the case with the PS4, the Xbox One, Xbox 360, etc.
Do you remember all this time about how like, oh, dude, Resogun? I've been playing Resogun for like 3 months.
That is a dope ass game. But Resogun's the perfect example. And I completely agree. People have mocked me mercilessly on Twitter about this, but I think even though indies do not sell consoles, they do give worth to people. If they buy a console, they have a reason to turn it on every other week because there's a new indie coming out, versus buying a console, having it sit on a shelf for 6 months, and then when someone asks them, should I buy this console, you say no because there's no good games on it. That's a big conceptual difference. So it's cool to see indies at launch, like Binding of Isaac and the World of Goo pack. Like, it's cool.
Clips.
And Snipper Clips.
Snipper Clips.
Is that an indie? I thought that was internally developed.
Who knows?
Anyway, people seem to love it. That was the one game I didn't play.
You didn't play Snipper Clips?
No, I played everything else.
Snipper Clips is going to be fucking great. Snipper Clips is going to be my Resogun.
Indies, even old indies, I don't like put Splunky on there, dog. Like
how much would you pay for portable Splunky where the ice level actually works?
The ice level always works. You just need to be good at the game. Okay. Anyway, whatever. If you haven't pre-ordered one now, you're not going to get one at launch. Too bad.
Hey, did all 4 of us pre-order one? I did.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course.
Okay, so.
Yeah. Okay, listen.
I pre-ordered 2. Oops.
Okay.
Oops, all berries.
I need to move on to my game. Continuing our streak of Japanese games.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Mine is Yakuza 0.
Fuck yeah.
Now, I'm going to be upfront and say, first, a few caveats. One, I have not played the entirety of a Yakuza game before. I've dipped my toe in.
What'd you play? What'd you dip into?
4.
All right.
Sounds like the one that I did. But I've been playing Yakuza 0. I have not finished Yakuza 0 because I have been so caught up in these charming little sub-stories littered throughout the game. The setup, it's an open world. You're in a neighborhood, Japanese neighborhood where the Yakuza reigns supreme.
It's like 1986?
80, it's like mid-80s, somewhere
So
around
they
there.
already reign supreme. It's not like an origin story.
Yeah, right. The Yakuza are already just Yakuzaing everywhere.
Sure.
And there's a very... here's the pluses I can say about the game overall. First off, it is a very salient core narrative that is very easy to understand, and like the propelling force of the core narrative is like very understandable and very like easy to get invested in, which is
puppy
an issue.
gets killed. Is that
No, you've
on that
been
level?
basically you've been in the opening hours of the game, you are wronged by Yakuza higher ups who are trying to clamber their way to the top of the organization, and you cast off your Yakuza mantle and decide to wage war on them and prove you're innocent of a murder that you've been framed for, which is very cool. But the stuff that I've been spending most of the time with in the game has nothing to do with that whatsoever. As you're cruising around town, you just run into these basically little vignettes that are happening, and sort of interject yourself. And the vignettes are all like, without fail, utterly bizarre. I mean, in the most endearing, sort of interesting way possible. To give you an example, just in the few that I've played in sort of after the first, they open up gradually. So at the point I'm at in the game, I've opened up a few. I taught a very nice dominatrix how to better dominate her clients. I helped shut down a ring of girls selling their panties.
Is this all done through
businessmen.
like text boxes, or are they like, are you doing things?
It's sort of that thing of, I mean, the game itself has no English dialogue. It's all subtitled, but like the actual exchanges are sort of that thing of like a phrase is actually spoken, but there's a lot more in the text. I
think Freshman's like, are you fit? Like, is this mini games, or is it like you beat up some people and then it's like by beating
or are you
up
just
those
standing there
people
watching a
you-
cutscene?
No, it's a lot of it's dialogue choices. A lot of it's like, especially with the dominatrix one, to use as an example, it's like choosing the right thing to help her be more dominatrixy. And you're literally like at one point hiding in a closet, feeding her like lines to be more
that's funny.
dominating. Is hysterical.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it does devolve into fighting because it's
Sure.
Yakuza and it's a game about fighting people with your fists. So like a lot of times people will get very steamed, and it's always hilarious because the people picking fights are always these poor schlubs who are like,
And you
who's
beat
this guy?
the fighting in the game is like sick and like hyper stylish.
Very cool, yeah.
If you don't want to play the game, at least look up like a compilation of the heat moves that you can do in the game, including one where you throw throw an apple into a man's mouth and he falls down because of the force of the apple throw, and then you stomp it and it turns it into juice in his face. It turns it into tasty, refreshing apple juice.
Yeah. In one, just another example of one of these like really weird side stories. I was recruited to be the producer of a restaurant commercial because I had an imposing presence, and that's all a producer needs to do is keep people in line. And there was a very sort of like scatterbrained director who was very schlocky, and I had to keep him in line. And the challenge of this particular like sub story in the dialogue part is people would throw TV production slang at me, and I had to guess what they meant, but like, so I could keep up the ruse that I was an actual producer because I was filling in for somebody else. And then the producer, the real producer, shows up, and of course him and his buddies are very upset and want to fist fight me, and I beat the stuffings out of them. And then and this is the moment that really sells it, and like a lot of the sub stories have this, where after the director sees it, he like lets on that he knew the whole time, and admits that it's because their business is about building dreams and creating fantasies that people want to live in and enriching people that way. It has like a very long, sort of sweet vignette about like the power of film. And then you run into him again when he's shooting a Michael Jackson video with Steven Spielberg, and you have to fight the zombies. You have to fight the zombies
That's
in the
it.
Thriller
I was waiting.
video.
I was like, it's going over the top at some point because it always does. My favorite thing, and I haven't reached this point in the game, but I saw a video of it, is apparently there's lots of mini games, right? Like Justin said, there's a batting one. Juice, is there taxi driving? Because that is my all-time favorite Yakuza thing.
There are taxis. I don't know if you can drive them
In
or
Yakuza
not.
5, there's a whole thing where you can earn money by driving a cab, but you have to follow all of the rules of the road. Like you have to stop at traffic lights and use your blinker, or else you lose points and get paid less. And also it's in Japan, so you're driving on the left side of the road, so you're gonna fuck up a lot. But in Yakuza 5, in Yakuza 0, you can go bowling, and one of the scenes is if you get a turkey while you're bowling, the bowling alley manager calls you over and says, "You got a turkey. You've won our special prize, an actual turkey."
Sure.
And then she bends down and puts a chicken up on the table. And there's this whole debate, like, that's not a turkey, this is a chicken. And she says, "Oh, yeah, I guess it is. Anyway, do you want us to kill it and cook it for you right now?" And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And you have this whole conversation, and eventually the protagonist of the game, Kiryu, I think is his name,
Yeah.
he says, I'll just take the live chicken. You befriend the chicken. And then I guess there's another thing I haven't gotten to. There's like a real estate management sort of metagame happening in the background. You hire the chicken as a real estate manager.
Sure.
So it's full of stuff like this. The thriller thing is the best. Like they're all
it's so
hysterical.
self-aware, right? This is not. I get really uncomfortable when people like commenting on like Japanese culture, like, "Oh, isn't that so fucking weird?" It's so like it knows what it is. Like clearly it knows what it is, and it is so like it makes it more fun to like laugh along with it.
It's absolutely surreal. The entire thing is baffling and so fun and funny.
And the fighting's really good.
Fighting's really good. There's like the environment is littered with different fighting styles you can switch between on the fly. There's like a fast one. There's one called Beast where you just are like brutal and picking up, pressing the square button near any item instead of like usually it makes you like pick it up. But pressing the square button when you're in beast mode just like picks up and swings it around in a video store sign that you're smashing on somebody's head, or picking up somebody's bicycle and just smashing it on their head. And that stuff is great. And the story stuff is really fun and funny, and it wavers wildly between this like deathly serious Yakuza thing and like these like fucking helping a grown man who's obsessed with slot car racing, who's being made fun of by the other kids in slot car racing because he's a virgin. Like that kind of stuff is like littered with that, and it's hysterical, and I'm really enjoying it.
I haven't played that much of it because I got kind of sidetracked with Resident Evil, but my only complaint with the game is that, and it's my same complaint I've had with all the Yakuza games I've tried playing, I never get too much into them because they're really long-winded at times, and Justin mentioned the deathly serious stuff. Like it's good. It's a fine crime story. It just is like it takes a really long time to get through. And even though this is the prequel, I guess this is sequentially the first game in the Yakuza series, I still felt like I didn't know enough about the world from the other games, despite the fact that this should be the first one in series. And I kind of
do they reference like characters from other games?
I kind of had this. They might not have. It may have just been all internal, and may have been left over from Yakuza 5, which I did bail from because that game has like 4 playable characters with storylines that are developed over the course of the whole series. And like I'm sorry, I'm not going to go back and play like a PS2 era brawler that came out in Japan only to sort of like learn how to. The series is just a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? It's not as inviting to newcomers as I wish it was, and it also like at certain times like it just kind of moves at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it, and I dig like Tokyo tourism stuff in games, like just walking around like a Japanese city and like seeing the sights and having freedom to do whatever dumb mini games I want to do. Yeah, Persona 5, hello.
Persona.
I want you. Really excited. My game next month, by the way, definitely going to be Persona 5. Really excited.
No, you can't jump the gun. It could be racist. You don't know.
I was just kidding. They've pushed that game back a million times.
Oh, okay.
It's never coming out.
Russ Frushtick, I think you're last.
Yeah, I've got my game. Last game coming out. So my game is a game called Astroneer. This is a game that came out in late December as an early... Yeah, but like I didn't play it this month, so whatever.
You could have brought Miku, but whatever.
Yeah. It came out on Steam Early Access and Xbox One Early Access. I'm pretty sure it's on. If not coming. Okay. So I put it on Steam. And I had just seen sort of screenshots of it and kind of got the vibe like, oh, it's like a No Man's Sky kind of like planet, space exploration game. But the more I started playing it, I just found it like way more engaging than No Man's Sky was. And I just kind of want to like wrap my head around why that is. So the premise is very straightforward. There's no throat clearing or anything. You launch from a space station. You land on a planet in like a lone capsule. And while you're on the planet, you have to go around and collect resources to build out your capsule and sort of advance and explore deeper into this planet. There's a few mechanics at work. The big one is oxygen. So you run out of oxygen if you leave your spaceship for too long, but you can also drop down these tethers so you can make these kind of like paths into the wilds of this planet where you can basically like maintain an oxygen line so long as you're still connected. So you'll build these like giant, huge, mile-long chains of tethers to help you explore better. And as you explore, you're collecting these resources, and the resources, something that I really like about it that No Man's Sky didn't do was that the resources are physical objects. So you'll see like a group of plants, and you'll gather the plants using this device that I'll talk about in a second. And as you're collecting them, they kind of like fuse into this physical block of organic material that plugs into the back of your backpack, but it's an actual like physics object. So you can actually like unplug it from your backpack, like wave it around. You can leave it on the ground. You could like throw it. And it kind of makes the idea of like collecting things a little more meaningful, because it's not just like you open your inventory and there's like 99 blue gems. And it's like this very amorphous kind of like lacking idea. Here, everything you're interacting with has this like weight and heft to it, which I really liked. So your main tool in this exploration thing is it's like an excavator. I don't know what they call it, but essentially all it does is it lets you either dig in or build up land. All the land is like fully, you can customize it or dig right into it, to the point where you can make like giant holes deep into the earth and dig into caves and stuff like that. But the art style is like this low poly.
It's sick as hell. Yeah, it's really
art
good.
style. It's gorgeous. And so, but it works really well for that, because you end up, in a lot of these games where you're like customizing the land and like digging into the land, it ends up with like a lot of sharp, jaggy grossness that makes it kind of look unrealistic. But for whatever reason, this like low poly art style works perfectly for that, where it's like, it just, as you're sculpting the land, it just feels much more natural to like see these like weird like polygons like flattening or building up and stuff like that. So you've got like a lot of freedom in terms of customizing like the world around you. And as you progress through the game, you're collecting more resources, you're finding objects to research, which in turn unlock new buildings for your base, and the buildings let you do stuff like build a moon buggy or like a crane for your moon buggy. There's this amazing moment where I was like just cruising around on the buggy, which takes probably like 3 or 4 hours to eventually build up to, and I found this just the top of like a crashed massive solar what is that, like a solar, what collects solar rays?
Solar panel?
Solar panel, thank you. So it was like a satellite solar panel thing, but it was enormous. It looked like Skylab, and all that was there was sort of like the top half of it. And I spent like 15 minutes slowly digging it out, and like 90% of it was under the ground, this massive like crashed out of space solar panel. And I finally dug it out, and the second I like freed it from the ground, it became a physics object that I could then grab with my crane and drag it back to my base. And if I placed it with the solar panel facing up, it would actually give power to my base, which is just this like crazy moment of realization where like, wow, they're really making every little object in the world kind of mean something, and just gives a lot more satisfaction to like exploring and finding new things and stuff like that.
Have you talked about the fact that there's co-op?
I haven't. So I actually haven't played the co-op, although I've watched people play it. I've watched videos of it, but there is, I think it's up to 4 players at once can go to town. I am dying to try it in co-op because it seems like perfect for that. Everyone like kind of building and doing their own thing and then coming together.
I'll do that with you, Russ. Let's do it together.
Yeah, let's rock and roll.
I looked this up on Steam before we started recording because I haven't played it and I hadn't really even heard of it. And I'd like to read the top review This person says, went to the top of a mountain, asked friend if he wanted to try to build to the moon. Spent the next hour building up. You can like terraform the ground in the game.
Yeah.
Spent the next hour building up into the atmosphere, past the atmosphere, into space debris flying by, keep going up, start getting motion sickness from the spinning due to actually rotating with the planet, falls off accidentally.
I have no idea you could do that.
Yeah, that's really that's true. If you can
amazing.
actually do that, that's super sick. Yeah, it sounds like my cup of tea, and I think sort of a more cynical person would say like, well, this is what No Man's Sky should have been. But to be honest, like, yeah, it does kind of set, like you mentioning, there's not like a menu where you have 99 carbon and you have to inject it into your spaceship so you can jump to the next planet. Like everything being very physics based and very experimental, exploratory, like sounds pretty cool.
Watching the gameplay video that you dropped in the room, Russ, this looks great. I'm excited.
Yeah, so what I want to say, for the No Man's Sky thing, like I think the big difference is that No Man's Sky was trying to do like 60 different things, like randomized, animal generation and randomized planets and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And it ended up like kind of spreading itself very thin. This game, again, it's early access, so they're like slowly building it up. But this game has started, I think, much more focused, which is to say like they want to make that first planet experience really cool and satisfying and interesting. And then they're going to kind of build on top of that. Now, right now, you can actually leave the planet and go to another planet. You can build a spaceship once you get the proper materials and research. And the other planets have different gravity and stuff like that. But the randomness aspect of the different planets is not the driving force. There are also no animals. There are like quasi-violent plants that you'll run into. But I think they were very smart in kind of picking their battles and saying, we're going to make this like base building, physics-based cooperative experience like as tight as we can, and then kind of similar to Minecraft, start like adding things to it. And I honestly believe like this game is going to be around for 3 to 4 years. There's a really strong fan base already, and if they continue to support it as well as they have so far, I think it's going to be really.
And this is like the best
game.
possible scenario for these open access games.
Yeah.
I mean, I will always wonder what would have happened with No Man's Sky if it had been developed with the audience. I usually do not think that is like the best way to make a game, but these kind of like start with a kernel of an idea and then start to find the game. It just feels like there's such an opportunity to see like, to essentially, it's free QA to test it out, to see what works, and then to kind of build towards that.
Yeah, it also forces you to make sure that your first 15 minutes or so is like a really interesting slice, which it's the hardest part of making a game, is making sure that loop, the first thing your player sees, is like a fun, interesting loop.
Yeah,
and they want to keep doing it no matter what.
And then once you can nail that, you can just like your space station is modular. They treat the game as modular, which is like, okay, we've nailed this aspect. Now we're going to start doing this aspect, and we'll try different things. It might not be perfect right out of the gate, but slowly but surely you're just building onto this mound of cool stuff. And but I think as a start, it's a really great start. It's not a surprise they've got like some former Valve people working on this game, so like it doesn't surprise me that it's as good as it is early on. But definitely a game worth watching. I really dig it.
Cool. Well, this is the
best
bad
game of
part.
January was.
Oh, now we fight to the death.
Yeah.
Remember?
This has always been the best part of the show.
I mean, for me, personally speaking, I would do Yakuza or Resident Evil. I think Resident Evil is a better game, but I also know that nobody here has played it.
Well, again, I played the demo based on and it's also a game that like I know that I wouldn't play, although I appreciate the artistry and why it's good. So I would probably vote Resident Evil as well.
I'm gonna vote Gravity Rush, knowing that it is more of a,
a thinking man's game. It's more
cerebral.
cerebral.
It's a statement. I know it's gonna lose. It's a protest vote, and we all know how well those work.
Gary Johnson vote.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to go to bat for Yakuza 0 just because I feel like I haven't played enough of it. But I feel like noting when somebody pulls a series like from the depths of depravity into the limelight.
There were
I think
3DS games that came out too. Like so many Resident Evil games came out that I was like, "Fuck all this." It was done. Like it was dead. They released it wasn't. They made that fucking Raccoon City shooter.
Oh,
they made so many bad Resident Evil games. It's astonishing.
Frushtick loved that game.
I think that's worth celebrating.
Do you think they just killed everyone that was working on the old games and just
Wow.
like started? They just like went to a college and hired a bunch of
Truly some
20-year-olds. And
residential
was like,
evil.
Yeah, it sounds really Resident Evil to me.
So you guys okay with Resident Evil 7?
Yeah, it works.
yeah, let's do that.
All right, our
since
best game of January 2017 is Resident Evil 7.
If we can
which
take a
will
minute now that we're doing
do
this.
battle next month.
Now that we're doing. Oh, wait, are we gonna put Resident Evil against the winner of next?
No,
That's the way the game works. It's
Is
a game
it?
of the year show that goes all year long.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
fucking
this.
shit.
that was
I
how we
forgot.
started.
Oh, that's such a dumb way to do it, but okay. So let's talk about predictions for February then. Anybody have
I
any? Because there's some JAMOs coming out in February too. Like the Fire Emblem game I'm looking forward to. Neo comes out next month.
Oh yeah,
It's gonna be
Neo.
tough to beat.
Does Nier come out?
Horizon Zero Dawn comes out February 28th.
Oh, Horizon, I think is going to be.
Horizon's gonna be great, but that Nier Automata demo was.
Nier is Nier out? I don't think Nier's out in February, is it?
It's not.
No, I don't think
Damn,
so.
I
it's
could have picked Hitman. That would have been a cop out, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Hitman's old.
Well, it's the
It's
first
finished.
season on disc releases tomorrow.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
a
Nier
cop-out.
Nier is
Today.
next month.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
In
that's gonna be
America?
good.
No. North America's March 7th.
Well, and Halo Wars 2, guys.
Oh,
I guess PC might be next month. I don't know. Yeah, that Nier Automata looks pretty cool.
New
There's-
Psychonauts game, no big deal.
is that really coming
Is
out
that the
next month?
PSVR one?
Yeah.
Oh,
I played it at an event. It's kind of cool. Oh, Torment, Tides of Numenera looks nice.
We got
For-
stuff.
For Honor. Yeah, there's some good stuff. Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World on 3DS.
Yeah, so it should be interesting, and we will talk about those games and maybe some other ones. Who knows? It's impossible to say. But that's going to do it? Do I say? I just say
That's gonna do it
just
for us
a
this time on the
McElroy.
Besties.
Shouldn't
Yeah, and then you
though.
like
Besties.
you
World's
talk about
best friend.
Be
Polygon.
sure to tune in next month for the Besties.
Yeah.
Because shouldn't the world's best friends pick the world's best games? Besties!
Besties.
Nailed it.
Besties!